Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to Health Oddity, episode 69. It's Christmas Eve. We're sitting here with a sherry and a mince pie, about to discuss all the last year and all its wonders and its amazing opportunities. And with me, I'm with two very festive individuals. I'll introduce Peter first. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm okay. I'm going a bit stir crazy because I've been in the house for a week because of COVID. So yeah, happy Christmas, by the way. But yeah, I've been in the house for a week with COVID, and it's made me realise how being outside is really good for your health, both mentally and physically. Because I'm going crazy. I've got one more day.
One of those animals in a zoo walking around in circles. Yeah,
exactly. Honestly, I'm losing the ability to be able to speak. I haven't spoken to anybody for ages. So, yeah, there you go. But I've got little Siddy here, look, to look after me. There he is, looking all festive and cute. But there you go. How are you anyway?
Well, I'm fine. I'm not bad. I've already been told off for not wearing a festive jumper, unlike James, who here has come. Well, he put it, by the sound of it, he had a choice. So,
yeah,
how you doing, James?
I have an eclectic Christmas wardrobe of jumpers, t-shirts, ties, and even a festive waistcoat. So
you've got to wear all of them at some event.
I know, but I did look for my Father Christmas hat and I couldn't find it. So that's why I'm only wearing a festive jumper. But
right,
only.
Are you well otherwise?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, I'm excellent. Yeah, it's been a good few weeks and lots of good stuff to look forward to in the future. So, and looking forward to doing this today as well. So yeah, everything is good.
So we've had loads of guests on this year, and we did promise that we would get together, just the three of us, to kind of recap things, discuss particular areas of interest, perhaps questions from the Health Oddity group, the Facebook group. So if you're not a member of that, and please do take part. It's starting to build up a little bit more steam, and we're here to answer questions. Please get involved in that. So you can find that on Facebook, Health Oddity group. And of course, please do subscribe. And that's the one thing, actually, we have kind of grown as a podcast over the last, well, it's over a year now, as we're on episode 69, and really started with modest aspirations to get this as an opportunity to really just, I suppose, for ourselves, just to talk and kind of vocalize ideas. And, you know, certainly for me, is to kind of get a good idea on how to. So I've got my son here. He wants more milk. So I don't know if this is one of the challenges of being a parent and trying to balance your interests when you have a 2-year-old asking you for milk. So apologies for that. I don't know where I was.
Milk is what you should have done.
I gave him that.
You didn't give him enough. But you know what will happen then? You'd be like, I need a wee.
This is where I should give him a lot and he'd spill it all over the carpet. So if you're not a subscriber of Health Oddity podcast, then please do. And I think I said last week, is if you shared it to one person, then we would grow, and we would just really have an opportunity to reach out and spread the message of, you know, trying to deconstruct all these complex ideas that we're faced with in the fitness industry. And really, we set this podcast up over the last year to try and simplify people's health journeys and give them an opportunity to listen to great experts. So please do share. And over the last 4 weeks, we've had some great guests again. We've had Matt Shaw taking us through his experiences mountaineering, and obviously his own physical goals and journeys that he's had as an athlete and as a personal trainer. We've had Tracy Rifkin again for her second appearance. Tracy, as ever, is not only a wealth of knowledge, but also someone who has great insights into just how to succeed in your health. And she's always open and honest about every aspect of her own journey. So she was fantastic to talk to. We had Helen. Helen was great. I mean, it's been such a great response. It's a subject that's not often covered on health podcasts. It's a perimenopause and the menopause. And we've got such great feedback on that. Not only a lot of people sharing that episode, but they're also commenting on how it's kind of clarifying their thoughts and giving them something to really work with. And they've shared it with their friends. And then we've also had Chet. Chet comes with great insight into just how to focus the mind and try and get yourself to align yourself with where you want to be as a person. And he's got, not only a lot of experience in personal training himself, and he's got a background in kind of physical training, in powerlifting and things like that, but he also just knows how to guide people. And I suppose that's what we want to do on this podcast, is just really guide people. So guys, have you had a chance to kind of reflect on the last 4 weeks and the guests that we've had? And, what conclusions have you come to, James?
Yeah, I mean, we had Owen as well last week. Owen from My Vital Metrics was the fifth one. So we've had some great guests since our last time, and I think I've taken something away from each of them, and I know that many of my members have spoke to me, and it's interesting because like always, some episodes resonate with some members and some don't. I think pretty much universally, I think Matt's episode and his actual telling the story of the initial sort of failed attempt of climbing Aconcagua and then going back and doing it, I think that was a really, really strong episode that a lot of people enjoyed listening to. Just from I suppose you'd say from an inspirational point of view, really, and setting your mind on something and the lessons that you can take from that. I mean, Chet, I work with regularly anyway, so I'm a big fan of Chet and everything that he does. Like you said, Helen's episode really kind of blew up when it came out, and got a lot of downloads in the first 24 hours, and has been shared a lot, and has created a lot of new sort of followers on Instagram and things like that. It's brought a lot more people awareness to what we do, I think. And I think on the back of that, we're looking to bring on a doctor, an expert within menopause to kind of move that forward. Great to catch up with Tracy. And yeah, I really found Owen's episode really interesting as well, having had experience with him and working with him. And I think that was, it's interesting to get that kind of, like we said, that impartial kind of scientific data on yourself that can't really be sugar-coated or sweetened. It just tells you exactly where you're at. And, then you make the decision what you want to do with that data, if you want to improve it or if you want to leave it where it is. So, no, I really like that. I did want to say as well, just to congratulate someone who coaches all three of us, Mr. Paul Mcelroy, who did his charity long cycle. Well, it was a clean and a strict press with the double 24s for 10 minutes against Denis Valisev recently. I mean, we'll discuss that maybe a bit later on between us, because that was a great thing for us to witness and to see someone train for an event like that and to do what they did, which was pretty special, which was very special indeed. But no, I think overall it's been really interesting. It's been a good mix, the last 5 guests, and I've taken something, as I always do, away from each one. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last few guests we've had on have been really either informative or inspirational, or both. I mean, Matt's story, I sent Matt a message after that, and I just said, like, because we were having a bit of a chat and all of that, and then he told us the story behind what he did with Aconcagua and how horrible it was that first time, and how he conquered that, overcame it, and then went back again. And I was just mesmerized. We just sat there in silence, and he just talked for ages. But I just, like, usually he'll come up with questions and all that, but I was just like, I'm not really thinking of questions. I just want to listen. I want to hear what happened next. And something that I thought about when I was listening to him, and I thought the same. This might sound a bit weird, but I thought the same when I was listening to Helen as well. Is that he posted his story of Aconcagua and his journey and that all over Instagram. Helen's posted her journey with menopause and perimenopause, and then like coming towards the menopause and stuff like that, all over Instagram. But you still don't get what they went through. You can't come to terms with what it actually is and what it does and what they went through, and like, you know, how close Matt came to pretty much come to death and what have you, and how down Helen was, how she said she left the house that day nearly and didn't think she was going to come back. And that just made me think that it's one of those things. You see all these things on Instagram and people compare themselves to other people on there and stuff like that and think like, oh, they're having a great time and they're always happy and all that. And it's not the case. It's not the case. So it just got me to thinking that was a big realization of how these things can be skewed, and not skewed by putting out funny content. It's just skewed by your own brain of like, these people seem to be doing this all the time and all that. And it's like, no, these people are testing themselves. These people are pushing themselves. And in Helen's case, she's going out and learning as much as possible to help her have the best journey through this thing that she's going to have to go through anyway. You know, so it was really interesting.
I think I was just going to say, I think because Instagram almost gives you the headline, doesn't it? And it gives you the headline on the front of the newspaper. But what I really like and what I've really enjoyed is when you've actually got, you know, an hour or in some cases more than an hour to sit down and really talk to people. That's when you really get the kind of in-depth understanding and the nuance, and you actually get to, you know, ask questions and find out what goes on behind it. Because like you say, Instagram or social media, people scroll and you've literally got a tenth of a second to catch someone's attention with a headline or a picture, haven't you? And that's why I really like these, you know, these hour-long conversations that you can really get to the bottom of people's motivations and fears and all the training that goes in behind the scenes and all the work that goes in behind the scenes, to give you probably a deeper understanding and a greater appreciation of what it takes for people to do some of these things that we just see on Instagram and things.
I think
that'll be a good thing to talk about in a bit as well, like, you know, because we're going to talk about our goals for next year and what have you. And we've all got pretty, well, as far as I know, we've all got pretty lofty goals, and it's not going to happen in an Instagram post, is it?
They were both quite willing to lay out the journey with all its warts, you know, because it's quite easy to see yourself as quite, for someone else looking in, and Instagram's a great example of this, that you can just post what you want and what you want people to see. So there's a high level of curation there. So it certainly takes someone who's extremely confident and someone who understands someone else's perspective to take them through the kind of challenges that got them there. Because, you know, I mean, Matt could quite easily have just said, yeah, I went up there, I was a bit of a boss, you know, I did it great, I did it in this time and we had a great laugh and I had all the gear and I did all the training, and, you know, and he made himself, bigged himself up. But actually what he said is, like, I made some fundamental mistakes here, and, you know, I'm quite happy to admit that I probably feel a bit foolish in retrospect, but I'm kind of happy to tell you, so you don't make those mistakes yourself.
What he did say, which I thought was really, really good of him, and it really shows. So this will go with what Chet was talking about as well, about like your values and all that. And it really shows that Matt has looked at himself and everything. Is, you know, he went up there a bit arrogant, didn't he? And him and Rob from Commando Temple and that, they said they smashed it to base camp in record time and got there. And they were like, right, brilliant. And then they all got massive headaches and they were knackered. But they thought like, no, we're all fit guys. We can do this. You know, Rob was in the Marines. You know, he's done the what's it, the Marathon des Sable or whatever it's called, the one across the Sahara. You know, so he's pretty fit guy, but it's totally different, you know. Desert's different to mountains, which is different to oceans, and all of that sort of stuff. So I thought that was really good. And like I say, that fits with what Chet was talking about like values and learning about yourself and the people who you want to work with and who you want to be and all of that sort of stuff. And Matt has obviously done it, and we see this and we know this because we know him, but he's done a lot of work on himself, so he can admit that. And he's like, look, I was a bit arrogant and I made a mistake. So in retrospect, he'll not do that again, will he? You know,
it's like,
and also a quick, just a quick recommendation for you, by the way, and for you two, if you haven't seen it, the 14
Peaks on Netflix.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I think Matt mentioned this guy in the podcast, and I didn't know who it was, and then I saw that it came up. But yeah, it's the guy he's called Nims, and he did. There's 14 peaks in the world above 8,000 meters. The record before he did it was 7 years or something like that to do them all. And he did it in 6 months and 6 days and broke 6 records on the way as well, 6 world records. So yeah, watch it. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's on my list to watch, you know, because I think that I've had a few members talk to me about that. And I remembered Matt mentioned it. And then it's kind of quite high up on Netflix now, isn't it? So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard it's very, very good. Heard it's very, very good indeed.
Obviously, make sure you watch Die Hard first, and then you can watch that.
No, so I mean, it's one of those things. If you have someone who's, you know, it's like a film character. When you're writing a character for a movie, you know, someone who's come from something, who's gone through trials and tribulations, is a much more interesting narrative than someone who comes as a ready-made, perfect kind of hero. You know, and it's understanding how people overcome these things. It's great, and that's what was great about Helen. Not only she'd been through those things, but she could articulate them in an everyday kind of way, which someone could relate to, and definitely came across as someone who was pretty caring to her clients and also understanding of what they went through. Because laying yourself bare is not easy. You know, being quite honest about what you're experiencing. I mean, it's for example for us. I mean, one of the reasons that we surround ourselves with other people is because, you know, we're probably having similar doubts about our own physicality, probably similar doubts about our business acumen. I certainly am. I mean, before I got on this call, I was talking to my mentor, my business mentor, who we've had on the podcast, Billy, and you know, we've just gone through some kind of changes in the COVID rules, and you know, all these things affect you, but they affect your mind and they affect your kind of confidence in what you can do. So, you know, it's great to be hearing these other stories, so show that you're not alone, that maybe you're experiencing something else, you're experiencing that someone else has experienced as well, and that they've gone through it, and they have a route to success themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, just as an example, I'm going through that right now as well, but I think that's because I've been in the flat for a week. So I'm starting to get doubts in my head about lots of things that I don't usually get doubts in my head about. And it's basically, like I say, it's basically just because I haven't been out. Well, for pretty much a week. I think I've got 2. I'm allowed back out on Thursday. But it's really like, you know, when you've got the choice whether you can go out or not, or you can just sit at home and watch films and what have you, and then you do that. Okay, that's cool, but it's you know, that's when you end up like, that's when you see someone who maybe you haven't seen for ages, and like you've just got nothing to say to them, you don't know what to talk about or anything because they've just been sitting at home watching films all day, and it's like, well, what you know, what do we talk about? What do you do? And it does kind of, I'm not going to say it rots your brain, but I can feel it. You know, I can feel all these thoughts creeping in that shouldn't be there. So I'm trying my hardest not to have them, but by Thursday it'll be fine. So there you go. Anyway, this is a happy Christmas episode, isn't it?
You've still been training well though, Pete. I keep seeing your, you know, even though you've been locked, quarantining or whatever, you've still been doing your sessions, haven't you? And you've been actually looking really strong. So I know you said you are obviously following the rules and you're quarantining for your 10 days, but it hasn't actually had an impact on your strength as such. You're training well, but it's just you're missing that getting out and doing your usual 2 or 3 hours fresh air walking every day, I suppose.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. That's what I can control. So I can do that. So I'm going to do that. So what I've been doing, with that though, I had to miss 2 training sessions because I was just, you know, it hasn't knocked me out, but I was like, do I want to train and make my, and so that in 2 or 3 days time, I'm going to feel worse, or shall I just not? And the likelihood is I'll feel fine. I probably would have been fine anyway, but I thought, no, I'm not gonna attempt that. So I just missed a couple of days, but I've been practicing bits of yoga and what have you. I was talking to, there's a guy on Instagram, Essex Man Paracord. That's one of your guys, is it?
Yeah. He's down my neck of the woods. Yeah.
Okay, that's one of your guys, because I assumed it was. And
oh, no, he's not one of my guys, but he came to is it Mark?
I've no idea. I don't know what his name is.
I think he came and did some Turkish get up stuff with me before. Yeah.
Okay. So he was saying he does yoga and stuff like that, and he says he finds it really, because I've been doing bits of yoga and stuff at home, like after we had David Keown on, and I've been watching his stuff on Instagram, and some of the stuff he does is brilliant. So I'm like, that's all good for movement and strength and all of that, and it doesn't wear you out. So I can do that in, like, as well as doing my training session and all that sort of stuff. And I was able to do it without burning myself out with COVID as well. So I was like, right, well, if I can't lift stuff, I'll just move. So I've been doing lots of mobility and stuff like that. And your man, Mark, commented on it, and he sent me some stuff to help me out with the yoga and that, because he's done a bit of it apparently. And he said he always finds it funny when people say yoga is just a bit of stretching, because it's not. Especially when you watch the stuff David does.
Yeah, well, I was gonna actually say, because we can maybe start talking. I was going to mention just quickly as well, Tracy, the things that just before we move on, that really, I mean, I mentioned it on the podcast, but I love, there's always something I can take away from every episode, and some things kind of stick more and are more instantly relatable and transferable, I suppose, and I can talk to members about it and that sort of thing. And I've always used her difference between maintenance and permanence as a thing with my members and people I work with. Like, when you get to a certain stage and then they talk about, now, right, you're just maintaining where you are. And I love that her take on permanence rather than maintenance, because maintenance always sounds like you're going to need to keep working at it. Whereas permanence is like, that has become, to coin a massive cliche in the last 18 months, your new normal. That's your new barometer set. That's your new thermostat. That's where you're at. So I love that. And I also love the way, because I hate using the word lucky as well, or luck. I hate saying to people, good luck for some, especially if it's something, if they're going to go and play the lottery, then yeah, good luck. But if you're going for a job interview, or you're going to do a sporting event, or you're trying to actually do something, I hate saying good luck, because it kind of devalues the work that's gone into it. So I really liked her take on being lucky, versus being fortunate, and having a part in your own future, as it were. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Tracy for those clarifications. I think what we were going to talk, guys, as well, is we had Mr. Chris Denning, big Health Oddity podcast fan from Canada, Mr. Chris Denning, ask us about our training goals moving into 2022, and for us to maybe talk a little bit about that. And I think that people are possibly interested in what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And it's just good, I think, to share, because in some ways it will help maybe inspire other people to think about what they want to do next year, rather than just, step on the scale and lose a kilo or two, like if there's more performance type goals. So Pete, what are you working on at the moment, or where's your focus set moving into 2022?
Well, first off, when you were just mentioning Lucky there, with Paul Mcelroy's thing that he did at the weekend with Dennis, I'd sent him a message the day before, just say, and I said, I'm not going to say good luck tomorrow, because it's not about luck. It's like, I basically said, I hope that all the preparation that you've put into it means that you have a great competition, basically, because he also didn't want to run away with it and just like wipe the floor with him, do you? Because then it would just be like, well, what's you're not going to do with Dennis, let's face it, because he's not been beaten for 12 years. But it's like, it's one of those things. You want it to be a challenge, but you also want to know that the training that you've done behind it has worked. So it wasn't about luck. It wouldn't be bad. It wasn't bad luck that he didn't make it. It was just the fact that he wasn't, Dennis has done it more and he was a bit more prepared, probably. I don't know. But anyway, that was just interesting that he said that. But yeah, for me, I've been working on a goal since August that Paul kind of said, "Do you want to work towards this? Because I think you'll be able to get it." And I was like, "Will I?" Okay. And I would never have considered this, which is why having a coach is really good, because then they can look and say, "No, I think you may be able to do it." But I'm training for the Beast Tamer, and I have been since August. Which is why I've been doing lots of pistol squats. Right, okay. And I'm
holding up the hammer to explain what the Beast Tamer is.
Well, wait a second, because I'll have to explain what a pistol squat is as well, won't I? So a pistol squat is a one-legged squat. So going down and coming back up with one leg out in front, so you look a bit like a pistol. So yeah, the Beast Tamer there's a 48 kilogram kettlebell, which is termed or nicknamed the Beast. And so it's being able to do a clean and press, so a strict press, no leg drive, just one on one side, a pistol squat, holding the bell. So you hold it in a goblet squat style hold. So you hold the bell in front of you. Well, you say hold it in front of your chest. You can hold it anywhere basically, and do a pistol squat with it, and then do a pull up with it tied around your waist as well, which is going to be the biggest challenge. I'll be able to get the pistol, I think. The press, Paul seems to
you're on the path, aren't you? So
I'm getting stronger on that.
Yeah.
But the pull up, I don't know. So, but training for it, whether I get it or not, training for it is going to be beneficial anyway. So you're asking why that's a goal. I mean, I just train to get stronger and be fitter and be able to go out walking for 3 hours and decide that I want to go walking up Penny Fan on a weekend and just go up and do it and get up and down Jacob's Ladder, which we spoke about on Matt's podcast, being able to do that sort of stuff. So I'm not specifically training for any feats or anything like that. But if they turn up along the way, so if the Beast Turner turns up along the way, then brilliant. I'm all over that. So it can't be bad, put it that way. The only bad thing can be is if I get injured along the way. But with what Paul talks about, we'll train within comfort. So actually everything I'm doing it feels easy. So so Sunday is a great example. I'd had a couple of days off training. I've had COVID. I wasn't, and I was feeling a bit like I haven't been out of the house for ages, and I was having all these doubts in my head about things. So I was like, I need a win for the week. So I took the 36 kilo bell, which is my half body weight. So I'm 72 kilos. I took the 36 kilo and I cleaned it up and pressed it for 4 times on my right, which I've never done before. I've only ever done 2. And these 4 felt easier than those 2 were a few months ago. So that was my win. And I'm like, actually, that's okay. So it's going in the right direction. But the whole thing about like having a goal and then being like, right, how am I going to get there? Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting there by just following the progressions that Paul has given me. I've no idea when it'll happen. It might happen next year. It might be the year after. I don't know. I've no idea. But I don't really care about that. I just want to keep training and getting stronger. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's basically what everything is heading towards at the moment. So yeah. What about you, Paul?
So yeah, I suppose I've never really been a competitive individual. I mean, not like I've never had the desire to enter competitions or anything. I mean, I was a little bit competitive as a teenager, but since then I've not really ever trained for competition. But when I started working, we all work with the same coach, Paul Mcelroy, and we evolved to competition kettlebell work, which is called kettlebell sport, which has the whole kind of setup is competition based, but obviously with COVID there's no competitions, and so yeah, I think probably next year I'll probably enter an in-person competition. We talked about doing either half marathon on snatch or doing half marathon on snatches before the thing comes up, is 30 minutes multi-switch, which actually Tracy Rifkin did.
Yep.
So, but actually, I've never really thought of that one, but probably either a 10-minute long cycle set, which is a clean and a jerk. So it's 10 minutes non-stop without putting the bell down with two kettlebells, or even the biathlon. I train them all really. So and last week I did a test week where I've never done 10 minutes before on any of the lifts. We'd only ever trained up to 4 minutes on any of the lifts. Obviously, we've done quite a lot of volume up until that point, and so I thought I'd have a go, and it went quite well actually. I felt pretty easy doing the 10 minutes, and I hit the targets quite easily. So so it gave me a lot of confidence actually that maybe next year, I could get up to. I mean, my goal I think in my head is to be able to hit some really decent numbers with 220 kilos by May, and then be working the 24s near the end of next year, because every time you go up even 2 kilos when it comes to kettlebell sport, it just feels like you're doing a whole different exercise. So you're working with relatively light weights, but the volume is quite high. But I think I've been plagued with so many injuries over the last couple of years. I'm still paying the price of many years of kind of misuse and disuse of my body. And when I put my body under quite a bit of pressure, which when you add a competitive element to something, even if it's just mentally competitive and you're not in a competition with other people, and it's more been mentally competitive with myself, you push yourself, or you don't recover well because of lifestyle and kids and blah, blah, blah. And I kept finding like injuries that was quite disheartening at times. I had 2 issues with fingers and my hands. I had issues with my back. I had variety. And I got into a bit of negative thinking, I would say, probably beginning of the year, and then even like the end of the summer with my back. But I've actually solved all those issues now. So I'm in a really positive place where I actually feel pretty strong. I feel like a handbrake's been taken off my training. And that's really quite nice feeling, particularly last week when I hit all the targets and I was like, I feel pretty strong now. I'm nowhere near where I think I could be, but actually what I'm thinking for next year is I finally feel like I can actually train uninterrupted and untethered, and potentially I might actually be quite strong, rather than just dealing with things.
Just on a note on this, because this is one of the things that's in my head is, because I've had a guy who has been diagnosed with arthritis in his shoulder. So, and he went to see a surgeon and what have you, and they've said basically like just have a couple of months off doing kettlebells. And I'm like, it's a shoulder. You've got knees and hips and all that, right? So we could still maybe do some swings. If that hurts your shoulder, we won't, but it hasn't been. But or we can do some squats and we can do some mobility and we can do lots of stuff. But he's having 2 months off because that's what he's been told to do.
That's really that annoys me when people give blanket advice from a perspective where they don't know and they don't take any time to understand what else someone could do. So sorry, Pete, to kind of go pick up on your point.
That's fine, because
the thing is that people, I deal with people like this a lot, and especially when you're dealing with, members of the public who maybe exercise and training isn't like, and not that it's really natural to many people, but it's something that they've maybe come to later in life. Then it doesn't take much to give them a reason not to train and not to. And if someone says take a couple of months off, they will take a couple of months off, and so many people will lose the momentum and won't come back. Where there's really no need to take a couple of months off. You can work around injuries. If you had a broken arm, you'd work around your broken arm for 6 weeks.
It's the wrong question, isn't it?
While it was in a cast. Question. Yeah, it's how do I work around this issue that I've got? It's not stop training for 2 months, because
Fabio's a good example of that, because he tore his
rotator cuff, I think, wasn't it?
I can't remember what he tore a muscle off the bone on one in one of I can't remember which muscle it was. So he was in a cast for ages on one arm, but he was still pressing with the other arm. And he one arm lost a little bit of strength, but if you give up entirely, so if he was pressing with one arm, he's still activating the muscle in his damaged arm, he's still using it. You're still using that muscle. You're just not obviously not using it to its full effect because he couldn't. But if he doesn't do anything, he's not using any muscle. So then it's going to.
I love it when a physio or a health practitioner, whether it's a doctor or whoever, they say they think about how they're going to get that person moving. And so I always think the question is, it's like, oh, like military press hurts or squats hurt. Okay, so what are you doing? What could you do differently so that it doesn't hurt? So rather than saying, oh, you're genetically not made for pressing overhead, or, pressing overhead is dangerous or squatting is dangerous, why don't you say, are you working on your technique enough?
Yeah.
Are you spending enough time working on your mobility?
Well, I've got a guy with arthritic knees who squats, and he squats really well. So that's the thing.
Your friend with the shoulder, is he doing anything at the moment, or is he just totally off now?
He's totally off now for 2 months. Oh. But anyway, the reason why I brought that up was because you've just mentioned, and you've had your fair share of injuries this year.
Shoulder.
Yeah.
Well.
So what do you do? What do you do when these show up? You don't just give up. You don't stop. You don't smash through them either. What's your strategy? What do you do?
My whole career and my whole training history is based on solving things that I've done to myself in the past. And that is my main training. It's like, it's like a boxer just keep punched in the face. You just got to. I find it quite useful to go through it in a way, because a lot of my clients are experiencing similar things. It's like I literally I've had quite a positive outcome over the last few weeks, months, where I found a couple of exercises that have literally distilled all the things that I needed, all the results I needed for the weak areas of my body, into very simplistic programming and very simplistic options. And it's been like this kind of really quite liberating experience actually now. But I do have to do a lot of prehab and rehab, but it can get very overwhelming in my day if I am doing it at the workout. So I have a couple of different ways I approach it. The first one is I just do it whenever I've got a chance. So I do my shoulder work when the kids are watching TV before they go to bed, because I've just got a dumbbell in the corner. I can lie on my back and do that work. It gets done in 5 minutes. I don't schedule it in. I just do it when I have a chance. I've distilled the things I need for my back and anything else that I've got that hurts into a very short and easy workout before I do the workout as a warm up. And so I've got to this point where I've become really efficient with my rehab and prehab, and I've found very, very potent exercises. And I'm now in the focus where I say less is more. If there is one thing for that joint that I can do and be progressive and treat it like strength and conditioning, then that's what I will do. So I've got one exercise for my shoulder. I've got maybe one exercise for my low back, one exercise for my hamstrings, one exercise for my hip, etc. And it's all coming together really nicely because I'm just really consistent with it. And it's also taken a lot of stress of just finding loads. When you ask someone, you say, oh, I've got this shoulder problem. They go, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this million things. And then you go, oh God, I don't even know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to progress it.
And you've just got to do that and do it 3 times a day, every day.
That's it.
Along with all the other things that you've got to do every day.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to that stage probably around July, August, where I was in a situation where I was literally going, this is bigger than my workout. And I'm not really feeling any change. And I actually spoke to Paul. I said, Paul, I can't even do basic things at the moment. We're going to have to change the programming, which he did, which is a big effect. Changed the programming, went super light. I think I mentioned it a few weeks back, but and that made a big difference. Just a bit of training volume, that was a problem, and then just really pinpointing the right exercise for the job, which is not always easy, but it's actually been really gratifying, and I feel really empowered by it, and I feel almost, that evangelical thing you get when you suddenly made a jump in your health and you want everyone else to know about it. I've got that with a few exercises, so it's been pretty good actually. That's why I'm quite positive going into next year.
So what you've done there in my head is you've put a training system together specifically for you and what's wrong. So we spoke to Keegan like about the knees over toe stuff and all that, which is all great. That's a system for people who've got sore knees and and all of that. But you've put a system together for a shoulder, a low back, a hip,
elbow,
and all elbow, low back, hip, fingers, QL, all that. No, but you know what I mean. And it's like, so there's all this stuff out there, like the original strength stuff and that works really well, right? But you need to have the specific stuff within that for exactly what you want, right? Mm-hmm. So you've just taken little bits of each one of those, which we've spoken of before. There's all these systems out there, and you've just taken the bits that work for you from each one, or whatever you've done, whatever you've learned in the past, or you've worked out your own movement. But then you've put your own little system together, your own little routine, and then you just do that. And you do that until you either don't need to do it anymore, or it's not working anymore, and so therefore you have to change it.
Well, most of them I don't need to do anymore, but I'm still doing them because because I can program them progressively like a strength and conditioning workout. Yeah. So even though they're just working on an internal external rotation of your shoulder, for example, then you can still make that into a progressive overload, and I'm programming it like I'd program a press, like 3 sets of 5. Something like that. And that means I can go up a little bit of weight, or I can do a couple more reps or something like that. So it's just, I've got it in the diary as part of my workout plan. As I know what I'm going to be doing with the kettlebell and my squats, I know what I'm going to be doing with my rehab. And now I'm interested to see how far I can take the rehab and turn it into a performance-based thing. Could I potentially be using really heavy weights within reason with my internal external rotation of my shoulder now that I'm out of pain? What could I do with that? Because it's now a habit, so why get rid of it?
No, that's brilliant. What about you, James? We haven't even asked you yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on my week 6 of the programming with Paul Mcelroy now, and so I've done 5 sessions a week for the first 5 weeks, and I'm in week 6 now. And to begin with, I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to 5 times a week, of structured training. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it work, and do it. But I think I've just, I have done, and I'll be able to continue doing it now. So, but I want to touch on something I'll talk about my goals in a second, but to touch on something you said, Pete, I think it's similar to me. I've got a kind of an idea of what I want to do and where I want to get, but I'm not putting a time on it, a time limit on it. I'm working towards something, but I think that maybe we'll talk in a bit about the overall importance of having some kind of goal or something that you're striving for. I know we talk a lot about, well, do you need a goal, or as long as you're moving in the right direction, is that okay? But I think just from myself and from what you've said, having an idea of some possible destination or something in the future you're working towards, even if it doesn't necessarily have a strict hard and fast time on, but that you are moving towards it. Because that old saying of, shoot for the moon and you might hit the stars or whatever, even if you don't ever get to the beast tamer, but if you can do all 3 modalities with a 44 kilo kettlebell, for example, I'm not saying I think you will get to the beast tamer, but I'm just saying if you did just hit everything with a 44, that's still miles stronger than you are now, isn't it? So you're going to be that much further ahead. So for me, my long-term goal would be, I was really inspired by a few guys this year who've done the Strong First courses. David, is it David Svigo? So yeah, David Svigo, yeah. And also out in Ireland, I'm going to forget his name now.
Steve Malloy,
that's the one. Yeah, those 2 guys they both did the Strong First Elite level at the SFB when I hosted that. And I was just, so impressed. And then I actually started looking at it and thought, and probably like you with the Beast Tamer, initially you kind of look at it and you think, that's something that's so inspiring, but it's not really anything I could ever do because it seems so far away. But then when you actually start to break it down and look at what you need to do, so just to explain that the Strong First Elite is you have to be able to pass all the tests basically for the Strong First Kettlebell Level 1 and 2 course, the Strong First Bodyweight course, and the Strong First Barbell course all on one weekend, basically. So I'm working towards that, and I've got the Strong First Level 1 kettlebell certification. I'm one exercise away from the bodyweight one. And then there's only really one exercise in the Strong First Level 2 kettlebell cert, which is a half bodyweight press, which I've not currently done. And then the barbell one is where I need some work predominantly on the deadlift, So really, when you look at it, it's two big exercises. It's the overhead press with the kettlebell and it's the deadlift. They're the two most meaty ones that need the most work. So what Paul's doing with me at the moment, I'm training all three modalities at once. I'm doing kettlebells, I'm doing body weight, and I'm doing barbell all across sort of 5 workouts a week, 2 different ones, one that I do 3 days a week and one that I do 2 days a week. And I'm really enjoying it, and I'm feeling good. I'm seeing and feeling progress, and it's great. I'm really enjoying it.
So here's an interesting thing. What deadlift are you going to have to do?
It's a double body weight deadlift. So it's going to be around about, 150, 152 and a half kilos, something like that.
And what weight are you training with at the minute?
Oh, literally, the heaviest weight at the moment that I'm training with is 77 and a half kilos.
Right. So less than half.
Yeah.
That's just an interesting thing for people to get their heads around, is this whole training within comfort. That's well within comfort, isn't it? And it's not about... It
might be, and like you started your piece, it may be that, I don't know, it may be, I would probably think that I'm going to be, it's not going to be 2022. It's probably going to be 2023, because I don't want to feel like, I feel that whenever I've put too much pressure on myself to get stronger, quicker, it's when I then start trying to jump up weights too often and start testing your 1 rep max more often than you should. And, then I run into issues with my back and all sorts of things, So I think actually just taking that pressure off and just saying, well, okay, I know I already worked out. I thought, well, okay, in 4 weeks' time, I'm going to be lifting, say 10 kilos heavier on my squat, my bench and my deadlift. And I'm still going to be in relative comfort, and in 2 months.
It takes a long time, doesn't it? I've been working with Paul longer than you two. And I would say the first year, given it was a COVID year and things like that, there was a lot of instability in the training, and I had a couple of finger issues and stuff like that. But other than that, I see that first year of just my mind and my body adapting to anything like the routine, just getting used to being mentally in the right space. And at the time I was a bit frustrated, but in reality I wasn't ready to be making the kind of progress. I physically wasn't ready. It just takes time.
And I think it's so this week I've got sort of 10 times 8 pull-ups on Thursday. I know that the Christmas week will be 10 times 10 pull-ups along with 10, my presses and all the rest of it. So no, I'm enjoying it. It's very different. It's very, the volume is high, but the relative, the RPE or the perceived exertion is not relatively low, but I never come close. Well, I wouldn't say I never come close. I'm not failing on any reps, no. And I'm not coming close really to failing on it. Even the pull-ups, I feel if I had to, I could probably do another 1 or 2 in each set, if I really had to.
What I've been loving about it, I've just forgotten what I was going to say because I was thinking about a lot of things. So just talking about this, actually, Finbar, who I had on, world champion lifter, kettlebell lifter. You see him; he's done like 190 kilo deadlift, hasn't he? I think.
So he's about 80 kilos, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's going for like triple body weight. But so he's done that, but then the next thing you'll see him doing is he'll be doing sets with 110 or 100 even. And it's like he drops all the way back down. So it's the same principle. He's just got stronger. So in 3-4 years' time, your 57.5 kilo deadlift or whatever, or 70 kilo deadlift or whatever it is you're doing might be 100 kilo deadlift. You know what I mean? That'll be the equivalent. And it's yeah. I was going to say something else as well, but I can't.
No, that's okay.
Long-term thinking, you have to take your ego out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I to give people insight in how I'm training, I use 16s from two 16 kilo kettlebells from probably June, and didn't change the weight at all until this week, in which I've gone up to 18 kilos because we were building a bit of volume and we were building a bit of pace, and the reps might only change. Like he might adjust. Okay, you're doing 6 sets of 1 minute, and now you're doing 8 sets of 1 minute, and that's the only adjustment for that week. Or it could be just an extra set at the end of the week, or something like that. And actually, the reason that he works like that is he's realized over time, given the amount of load I have in terms of my workload with hours I do and kids and stuff like that. And I'm over 40, and it's not there's an excuse, but I just don't recover in the way that I did when I was 20. And so he found that if he pushed me too fast, then I would just break. So yeah, there's a change in volume. Basically, I got to the point where we built a huge amount of volume. Then Paul said, hey, let's just do a test, see how you can do. Never did more than 4 minutes in training. And then he said, right, okay, let's go for full 10-minute sets. Took a few days off and did them, felt really great. And then I'm back now up 2 kilos and down in volume significantly across everything. And I now understand that it's going to be so incremental, but I am one of those people who's quite happy to do the same thing. I don't know if it's because I was used to doing marathons and just running in a straight line. Maybe endurance types tend to deal with that kind of predictability and that kind of long-term goal better than like someone who wants something snappy. But, I know now that I'll be up by 1 minute next week, maybe, and 30 seconds here, 1 rep per minute there, so it's only going to be small incremental changes. In actual fact, I thought that by now, looking back 2 years ago, I'll probably be on a 200 kilo deadlift, and it hasn't really worked out like that because there's too many other things I had to factor into my life. But I have kept moving forward. Here I am 2 years later, and I'm still making progress. Yeah, not in every area, but globally, I'm quite happy where I am.
The thing I was going to mention earlier that I forgot about, which is quite apt really, was focus. And I clearly wasn't focusing on what I was thinking about, was it? Because I couldn't remember. But that's what being in for a week does for you. But so Chris Dennon mentioned this because he's changed the focus of his training because he used to just do lots and lots of things, and he's brought it right in, which is what we've done as well. And there's nothing wrong with like any approach. So over the years, I've done lots and lots of like variety stuff, and I've done lots of swings and presses and this and that and some get-ups, and we've all enjoyed our training and got a little bit stronger in each thing, or just stayed on a plateau and everything, kept everything basically balanced it where it was at, and then had to push it trying to get my deadlift up and my squats up, but while doing this other stuff over here, and never had the real focus of like, I'm concentrating on that and only that, and like laser focus. And now that I'm getting a bit older, I'm like, right, can I do everything? No, I can't do everything. And trying to balance it all is really hard. Whereas if I can just keep my strength up in anything, everything stays where it is anyway. So that quote that Paul said a while back about if any rep max goes up, every rep max goes up. So if I'm pressing the 24 and I can do 5, then that's fine. If I can get that 5 to 10, then my press with the 28 goes up, my press with the 32 goes up. If I can get that 10 to 15, the other lot everything else goes up as well. So 36 is no longer the heaviest bell I can press. I don't know what is because I've never pressed anything heavier. I just know that I can press more than 36 because I did it 4 times the other day. So it's like, but it doesn't matter. So it really doesn't matter. But the focus is I'm doing the same things. And I've spoken about this before, the same exercises week after week after week after week. And the variety comes from just the change in weights and the change in rep ranges and all that sort of stuff. And it's really changed how everything else has gone. So the yoga stuff I've been doing, I've been doing like pose and balances on just my hands and what have you. I've been doing skin the cats on the bar, which I did the first time I tried that. I was like, I'll give that a go. So that's where you spin, you hang from the bar and spin your legs through between your hands and go all the way around. So you're kind of upside down and come all the way around and then spin yourself back again through shoulders as well. And that's like proper shoulder mobility. And all of that has come just from not damaging myself, trying to push through any goals. So the goal for the beast tamer at the minute, I think, where are we? Probably next week I'll get to 10 sets of 10 presses with the 28 kilo bell, which is way more than I've ever done before. And that'll probably be quite easy. I'm not saying it is, but it'll be relatively easy, but I've never done that before. So that'll be a personal best. That'll be a record for me, but it'll be easy. But all it means is everything else has gone up and I haven't had to go anywhere near it. So I've had a few people ask me about programs and stuff on like on Instagram since they've seen what I've been doing. And there was one guy in particular asked me, and then he didn't follow through for whatever reason, which is fine. But I see what he's doing on Instagram, and it's like, and he's just doing right. He wanted something specific. And then it's just random stuff on Instagram. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And it's kind of as if like, it's like, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do this. And then just kind of saying, I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing, which is fine. But it's like, it's what we spoke about, like setting goals and stuff like that in the past all the time, isn't it? It's like, it's okay until then you get to the point again, you go, actually, no, I do want that. And then I do. And then eventually you kind of decide that you're going to do it. And it's always better to make that decision earlier rather than later, isn't it? So
you focus on a few things, it affects everything else. I mean, I've not done any pressing since April this year. I've done no military press, no kettlebell presses, and I pressed 32 kilos no problem yesterday when I had a go on it. To be fair, the reason I didn't press is because I injured my shoulder and I couldn't even press 4 kilos. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't. But basically, I've maintained it by doing other things, and you can't work every quality. Your body doesn't have infinite adaptive capacity. And that's what I've noticed. And that's what makes actually Fionn, who we interviewed maybe about 6 months ago, it's quite astounding to me, particularly as I train a similar kind of modality as him. He seems to be able to maintain every quality quite linear, because you see his deadlift is massive, his squat is massive, his press, everything, and his sport is world class. Whereas if I focus more on the pure strength barbell work, everything else just drops. So I've had to eliminate a lot in order to focus on one quality. And that means, I can't do everything. I can't have at the moment, I don't seem to be able to have a big squat and be able to do kettlebell sport, because otherwise I just burn out.
When you look at Fionn, though, he's been doing it for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Non-stop. Like 6 years, 6 years of training in comfort and just expand and just grow in that comfort zone. 6 years from when Andy's 31 or something like that. So he's been doing it from when he was 25, and he was an endurance athlete before that. So he's put in the time. This is the other thing as well, because people want it and they want it now, don't they? He's got like, what did he say? He got a personal training session when he was 16. So he's had 15 years of consistent practice in stuff, in moving his body. And you can't cheat that. That's why he's so good at what he does, because he's put the time in. I'd love to be that good. And I'm like, right, in fact, I could be, but I'd be 60 by the time, well, no, I won't, because I've already put in 10 years. So I'll be 50 by the time I get like that. You know what I mean? So it's just the way the way it goes.
Guys, I think what we'll do is it is Christmas Eve, obviously, and I just wanted to just have a quick before we wrap up, just a quick, what does training look like for you guys over the Christmas break? Do you, because we obviously get this question, members and people ask, about training over Christmas and things like that. Do you train over Christmas? Do you have a total break? Do you watch what you eat over Christmas, or do you have a total break? Just if we can just have maybe just a couple of minutes each, just so that we can, because it may have changed as well in the last couple of years. I know we did a full kind of Christmas episode last year, which people can go back to and listen to if they really want to at Christmas. But Pete, what's your you'll be out of quarantine. You'll be single and ready to mingle, as it were. Well, not single, but
I'm not sure Sean will be very happy with that.
Well, they have spent some time together, so maybe it's all gone all right.
Yeah, what would it look like for you?
Yeah, well, she's got to work today. It's her first day out of the house, so I'm sure she's having a lovely time. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take a 28 kilo bell away with me, because it used to be I would take a 24 kilo bell away with me because that was my bell. Now the 24 is the new 28. You've heard it here first. Now 28 is the new 24. Sorry. What am I talking about? But so I'm going to be taking a 28 kilo bell away with me, and I'm going to be doing pistol squats and presses. And if I can find a tree branch or something, because I'm going away for a few days over Christmas, just to stay somewhere and cook Christmas dinner and what have you away. So I'm going to take a bell away with us, and then when I get back, I'll be straight back on the program that I'm doing.
And presumably up until kind of Christmas or when you go away, you'll be following your program, and as soon as you get back, you'll be following your program again. So it's just
absolutely, yeah. So the days when I'm away is because I'd have to take away a 28, a 36, a 24, a 26, and all these bells. So I'm just going to take one bell, and I'm going to do like 5 pistols each leg, and I don't know, 8 presses each side or something like that. And I'll do that 2 or 3 times over like 5 days. And then the rest of it, I'll do the body weight stuff I've been doing, and we'll be going for walks and stuff as well. So I'll be keeping that up. So that's just like not a maintenance. What's it? A permanence thing, so just permanence. And like I say, I used to use a 24 for that, and I'll be using a 28. So that's the progress that's happened. And then when I get back, I'll be straight back into it. If it's anything like when I went away in the summer, if I can't find a pull-up branch, when I get back to doing pull-ups, my lats will be killing me. Everything else was fine, but my lats were just so sore after I got back into pull-ups. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. Very simple. I'll still be, I'll be eating mince pies. I'll be drinking beers most days because I'm away, but not loads. And just generally enjoying myself, because what one of my guys says to me as well, he had a dietitian he was working with a while ago, and and it's one of those cliches, but it really stuck with him. And it's what you do it's not what you eat and drink between Christmas and New Year. It's what you eat and drink between New Year and Christmas that matters. So I don't live by that, but I keep that in my head. So
I remember you saying that last year. It's a really good way of framing it. No, it's fantastic. Paul, what about yourself?
Probably a large trifle. I like a trifle.
What is that? What you're going to look like by New Year?
I mean, I'll eat a lot of trifle, so I don't know what it is. It's just something. I only have trifle once a year. But it's like a thing to do. You got a bit of time. You can do the layers. You can have a bit of fun with it. So I've eaten a lot of trifle.
What's your cream to custard ratio?
Yeah, I like a lot of cream. I like to put vanilla in the cream.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty good. You put some good quality vanilla in there. Some people put alcohol in there, but my obviously my kids and my wife, they're not a big fan of the alcohol in the bottle of trifle. But the thing is, I will just eat. Kind of, if I want to eat something, I'll eat it. I will probably be training right up until I don't need to. I'll probably have 3 or 4 days off, but I kind of do things every day that aren't training, as to say. Like I try and do 100 press ups a day, but I don't do full press ups. I'll do them like on the stairs, or I'll do kneeling press ups or something. I'll do it like, I find a way of doing it so easy that I can do it. So that means regressing it super, super easy and doing 50 chest high press ups against the kitchen counter. That's what I'll do. I'll get 100 done. And then some days, if I'm feeling like Superman, I'll do them on the floor. But I'll always do something. Probably on Christmas Day, I'll probably hopefully I'll be able to sleep in if the kids let me. But yeah, I don't really lose my goals just because it's Christmas. You know, it's kind of how I relax. So it's kind of part of me, and it's kind of like a habit. And it's like, you can't really stop a ball rolling down a hill straight, you know, once you've let it go. So it's like, that's kind of, that's what I'll do. I just won't kill myself, and I won't beat myself up by each trifle. You know, in fact, I'll probably congratulate myself for the amount that's been consumed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I'll train as normal up until Christmas Eve is a Friday, so I tend to follow my program Monday to Friday, so I'll do that, and then I'll probably go in. I've trained every Sunday with Guillaume and Paul for, oh God, donkey's years, 7-8 years. So we'll probably go in and do a session on Boxing Day, but it'll be more of a good opportunity just to see them both and just put some music on and do an hour of movement, you know. And it's not like following a program. It'll just be, I tend to, I mean, I think if I do, that's why even on holiday, if I can do an hour of training in the morning, I feel better for the rest of the day. And, you know, I feel like I've done something there, which is good. Plus, I do have a mulled wine urn in the gym. So, and I have 24 bottles of mulled wine there. So,
necessary.
So I may even have a swig of mulled wine.
Before you take the session?
No, not before. No.
Have you got people on the treadmill like running along, going like, oh, like pouring mulled wine over their head?
Dave, the other day, last Friday, Dave Roscoe did his session 8 till 9 in the morning. And then he had a mulled wine straight after training. So at 9 a.m.
Yeah, but he's in his 70s, isn't he? You can do whatever you like when you're
in his 70s. He's a machine, yeah. So
Jerry as well, you know.
Yeah. So no, it's no. So that's basically what we'll be doing. I tend not to. I mean, I won't try and, like anything. I think if you go too overboard, I mean, if it's 1 day or 2 days, then that's fine. But some people, you know, take, like you say, that whole week from that Friday, which is going to be the Christmas Eve, the 24th, through till New Year. They'll just go bonkers and do no training and just eat and drink all the food and drink, you know, and then that just makes you feel rubbish anyway. And it's so much harder to get back into it. So yeah, you know, I think I'll be relaxed to an extent, but not, you know, not like I'm going in some kind of eating competition, you know, for a week, you know, because it just becomes that much harder to get back when you, and plus I feel rubbish, you know what I mean? If you know.
Will you be? What you're on a meat diet, like a carnivore diet, aren't you? So what will Christmas dinner look like?
Well, I'm kind of more animal based, but I'll have a roast dinner on Christmas. You know what I mean? I'll have some vegetables and some, yeah. You know what I mean? It's more like the things that I'll be more aware of is all the cakes and the sweets that are just laying around everywhere. You know, so I'll eat a lot of good food, and I'm sure I'll have some of the other bits as well. But I'll just try and I'll have a couple of beers, you know, because I enjoy my, you know, ales and things like that. But I think it's just, you know, trying to keep a lid on it to a certain extent.
Well, I saw an advert. I can't remember which. It was for one of the supermarkets or something like that. I can't remember which advert it was, but it showed like they show you the Christmas like family dinner, and the table. Honestly, it was ridiculous. There was like 10 people around this table. The table was about like 20 foot long. And it had everything on it, turkey and stollen and cake and this and that and blah, blah. Because there's all these traditions, isn't there, from all over the world. And then, so everyone thinks they have to do all traditions on the thing. Like, and it's all of a sudden that like piles up all the food. And then you've got to have the bowl of nuts, and you've got to have this, and you've got to have the mince pies, and you've got to have this over here and all of that. And it's like, you don't have to do it all on the one day as well.
Overseas listeners, James is the only other individual other than the Queen who can eat swan.
I think I missed that. I lost what you said. What did you say?
I said, for our overseas listeners, other than the Queen, James is the only other individual allowed to eat swan.
Yeah, he's only allowed to eat one if he can catch one.
Like Rocky and a chicken. No, that's good. No, I suppose we're near the end. The one thing we haven't mentioned, actually, we'll do just before we wrap up, is that Paul Mcelroy and Dennis Vasiliev did their battle, their kettlebell battle, which was a clean and strict press, which is a variation of a competitive lift in kettlebell sport called the clean and press or long cycle. And I suppose Paul approached Dennis. Dennis is an 11-time world champion. He is, if you ever check his stuff out, it's almost difficult to comprehend how good he is at his sport, because you have really no comparable experience being under 232 kilo kettlebells for 10 minutes. It is, and the way he makes it look so easy. So Paul chose quite a formidable opponent, and they're doing it for charity, or they did it for charity, which was a 10-minute clean and strict press to who could do the most presses. And this with two 24-kilo kettlebells. So they clean it up into the chest position, and then they press it overhead. And whoever obviously scored the most would win. And what made it interesting for everyone in the strength community was that Paul has an insanely high press strength. He can press I don't know what he's done, 70, 80 kilos one hand. It was something crazy. He certainly is pressed around his body weight, I think, at the time anyway. And he had to lose like 11 kilos to get to the right competition weight to match Dennis, who's about 84. And Dennis is just a master of endurance and efficiency, and obviously has a very high level of strength as well. So watching that online was fantastic. Dennis came out on top, for those of you who haven't seen it, and Paul, however, was leading for the first 7 minutes, and it was quite an astonishing display of strength from both of them. So it was great for us to watch, and obviously great for a charity. It was a cancer charity that they were supporting. What did you guys think?
Absolutely loved it. Yeah, I mean, it was great, and I think me and Pete were talking about it a bit before we came on air. But maybe we can put. Well, it's going to be difficult for us to put a link to watch. But if you just go on Facebook and find Paul Mcelroy on Facebook, you'll be able to watch it on his profile. It's there, the video of it. But no, it was incredible. Yeah, like you say, it just showed, and again, consistency of being that efficient and that good at the movement that Dennis was. His last rep, he did 85, I think, in the 10 minutes. His last rep looked the same as his first rep, and every rep in between looked exactly the same. And in the last minute, he was actually speeding up, so it was.
He didn't press anything more than 12 kilos in his training, did he?
Yeah, because he had an injury, didn't he? So he said it's just incredible. Just that technique,
Well, both of them came from the back foot, really. Paul only had 9 weeks to train. Dennis obviously had an injury. So in a way, it's quite an interesting kind of the fact that they both got themselves up to that level of fitness.
I think that what was almost most amazing was the fact that they put the bells down, and within about 20 seconds, they were both having a chat over the. I thought they would have been wiped out straight afterwards, but they were kind of having a really kind of nice, respectful, jovial kind of conversation, within 30 seconds of putting the bells down. So it was, that was quite incredible as well.
Pete?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. It was just really interesting because Paul's obviously ridiculously strong, and Dennis is obviously just ridiculously efficient, and you could see it in the cleans, and I find it really interesting because they're both world class. But you can get, you can't be like brilliant at everything. You just can't be. And there's always going to be someone better than you. Unless you're Dennis, obviously. But you know what I mean? Is like there's like Paul was saying all the way through the build up and everything. If it was just an outright strict press, he'd win because he's just stronger in an outright way. But Dennis is just his efficiency, his training showed up. Like, he's been doing it for so long. Like, again, the same as Finn, he's been doing it for so long that, he's just, it's all on his side, and it's easier to to learn to do something more efficiently and kind of properly, and then you can just keep going and going and going and going. So this applies to everything, as opposed to just trying to force your way through it, which isn't what Paul tried to do. He just wasn't as efficient. So at the end, he was trying to kind of like just keep forcing his, and he's got that mindset to just keep going. He was probably,
you would have gone for probably another 10 minutes.
He was probably really sore and really wanting to give up, but he was just like, no, I can't. Of course I'm not.
We call them Rambo reps, don't we?
Because I think that was the first thing Dennis said, and David Keown talked about this. The first thing Dennis said was, "Did you last the 10 minutes?" He didn't care how many reps he did. He was like, "Did you last the 10 minutes?" And then he asked him how many reps he did. Yeah, because that's where it lies, doesn't it? You could do 4 reps, but as long as you've got the bells up for 10 minutes, that's what matters.
That's what I was happy with last week when I did my own little competition against myself. It wasn't quite on the same scale. I like to think it was. I mean, but no one was watching, and that's it. Great. Well, maybe we should wrap up. Any? I
was just going to say, Paul, just before we wrap up, just a couple of things, just to what was the first thing I was going to say? You mentioned David Keown. Then can we just pop into the show notes? David Keown, former Health Oddity guest, is coming over to England, to Chelmsford, to Unique Results on March the 13th to do a 1-day workshop, kettle yoga and kettlebell sport. And I think all 3 of us are going to be there, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, brilliant. So all 3 of us are going to be there. There's only 18 spaces for the day, and we've already sold 10. So there's literally 8 spaces left. So, and it's only £149, I think, up until the end of January. So get yourself on there if we can put that in there to do it. And then the other thing I was going to say was next week, New Year's Eve episode will be with unconventional trainer from I think he's from LA, South Beach, or so. I think it's Los Angeles, where Mr. Eric Doyle is going to be with us next week, which will be New Year's Eve. And I'll head over to Mr. Paul Bassett to do the formal wrap up.
Yeah, well, Pete, you want to say anything?
No, I'm done.
You're done.
I think I've said quite a lot. Happy Christmas.
And Paul, you've got to go and make a trifle, haven't you?
Well, you've got to get ready in advance. It's about the planning. It's it's the details. It's the fine details. There's a lot that goes into my trifle planning. But look, everyone have a great Christmas. 2022. It's another year. Who knows what COVID will bring? Like this year, everyone thought it was going to be the best year ever. We're going to get back to freedom. The thing is, you just got to work with what you've got. And sometimes you're going to face adversity. Other times you're going to face something that's that you can work with. And either way, just got to keep going forward. So look, have a great Christmas. We're all going to enjoy ourselves. Please do like, subscribe. We want people to write some reviews if you could. That'd be fantastic. And if everyone shares this episode on Facebook, we're going to grow, and we're going to get some great guests for next year. I've already got a few lined up. We're talking to people all the time, and your suggestions are really valuable as well. So become a member of the Health Oddity group. We'll see you soon. So Merry Christmas. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye from James. How are you?
Happy Christmas. See you next week.
Peter.
Happy bloody Christmas. See you next week.
Ho, ho, ho. See you next week.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Oddity.